fusing information, and it's very difficult. I tell people it takes years to get, it's like peeling away layers of an onion. And you've peeled away 38 layers and you still have 20 more to go. Because it is an enigma wrapped in a mystery, wrapped in a total black hole of deception. Most of the information put out there to the public and to these investigators is deliberate disinformation designed to evoke a response. Fear and ridicule. One of those two. And this is why you see so many things about, alien invasion week on the networks, and they're invading us, or they're abducting us, or they're torturing us, or there's nothing of the kind happening. But there's plenty of ways to put that information out there and convince certain people there are. And humans have this predilection to liking to be afraid. It's like people like to go to horror movies, and people like to be frightened. But more importantly, people who want to control a large number of people or keep something secret, you do it through fear. And it isn't hard to do. I mean, I have documents from private institutes who talk about the use of stagecraft, I'm quoting, so that they are artificially staging certain UFO events and abduction events for their psychological warfare value. And I encouraged a man in England to write a book called MILAB, Military Abductions, where it talks about this. And the value of it is that it puts out a certain patina of fear that can manipulate large numbers of people. Because one of the long-term agendas for this secrecy, which Werner von Braun, who was the Nazi German, I should say, perhaps. He'd said he really wasn't a Nazi, but he worked with Hitler's and developed the V-2 rocket. He was brought into the U.S. space research program back after World War II, and his spokeswoman for the last 4 years of his life is on our team. And she said, oh yes, he knew about this, and he said to her that there's an enormous amount of disinformation on this subject because their agenda long-term, this huge $1 trillion a year military industrial project, is to grow that industry so that the whole world becomes united against a threat from outer space. There is no threat from outer space, but if you can convince people there is, instead of spending $1 trillion a year out of the global economy, we'll spend $2 or $3 or $5 trillion a year. And that's the agenda behind the secrecy. But in order to do that, people have to have an enemy, and you have to manufacture fear. And so the average person who investigates this issue has not had access to Werner von Braun's spokespeople or to the head of the Defense Intelligence Agency, which we have. And they are completely vulnerable to a lot of false information. And I say this with some compassion, at least 90% of all information out there on this subject is some form of deliberately implanted false information designed for a certain agenda. And so I tell people they need to be very skeptical, and it takes a great deal of research to find out, to get to the bottom of it. Well, the Disclosure Project is an ongoing initiative, as is the CSETI project to make contact, which we call the CE5 initiative, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. And the Disclosure Project is moving forward with a number of governments around the world, as well as the United States government, to identify people who want to see this done. And we've recently had conversations with some of the new chairmen of committees at the Congress. We're working very closely with the Honorable Paul Hellyer in Canada, who used to be the Minister of Defense for Canada. We're working very closely with a very powerful European country to effect disclosure, and they are cooperating. I can't say who this country is, which country it is, but it's a very significant development. So we're continuing to put the information out, but also work and coordinate with various governments around the world to make that happen. And we've actually, in the last 6 months, have had some very positive breakthroughs. In addition to that, we continue to put these contact teams together, which has gotten the attention of a couple of different governments around the world who are supporting contact peacefully. and are wanting to work with us for peaceful contact. So this is a very positive development, and we hope that bears fruit in the next few months to year or so. So that's really where we're going with that, and we continue to train people to do this, because I believe that Rupert Sheldrake, you may have heard of, has an interesting theory about morphogenic fields, and how when a certain number of people start to do something, it picks up a sort of power non-locally that influences. And I think that the more there are people who understand the subject and move in the direction of positive contact and a positive outcome for the future of Earth, that reality will be manifested. That reality will appear. And so I think it's very important for people not to sit around waiting for Norway government or United States government to act. We are people who are conscious. We can act. And the mind, the human mind, is very powerful. And a group of people working together who are conscious with the right intention can make amazing things happen. And that's what we're encouraging people to do. The spiritual implications of this are profound. Now, I distinguish that from religious, organized religions. But I think that what's very important and what's key to our perspective on this is that Erwin Schrödinger, who was the father of quantum mechanics and particle wave theory, stated 100 years ago or so that the total number of minds in the universe is one. And in fact, that the consciousness is a singularity, phasing within all beings. And this is also the heart of compassion of the Buddha and the source of the oneness spoken of in spirit in all the religious traditions and Native American traditions. And I think that we are going to have to return to a very deep spiritual understanding of what it means to be a conscious being, to be able to not only live on this planet peacefully and not blow each other up over sectarian differences, but also to go into space. Because when you look into the eyes of an extraterrestrial life form, they may be very different from us in many ways, but if you see that that being is conscious, and the light of that conscious spirit is the same as the conscious light within yourself, then you can find some common basis. And that is going to be the common basis. And this is why the motto of CSETI is one universe, one people. That within the understanding of the true nature of mind, the true nature of the conscious mind is that it's a singularity. And that we may see, I have my individuality, you have yours, everyone does. But I say our individualities are like different beautiful windows in a cathedral of different shapes and colors. But the light streaming through those windows is from a single source. And so if we understand the single source of the origins of our conscious being, this is true not only for humans, but it's also true, very much true, for these visitors. They understand that, because you cannot travel at multiples of the speed of light without crossing the light barrier. And when you do, you enter into this area that the mystics used to call the etheric, astral, conscious realm. And so you're dealing with civilizations who understand that. And I think that is the big test of our civilization at this time, is that we understand that deeply enough that it really does change our paradigm. And when we do, we're not going to be blowing each other up because of different interpretations of this Bible or this Quran or this religious figure or what have you. That we're going to understand that we really are all one people in the entire cosmos. I think the work that we're doing now could have been done 100 years ago if someone could articulate the elements. And my sole purpose is to try to articulate and give expression to the elements, all the components. But I think that today there are more people who are aware that not only are we not alone, remember at least half the people in America think that these UFOs are real and something's being kept secret. But I think that more importantly, more and more humans are skeptical of the demagoguery that goes with dividing people. And more people are saying, now wait a minute, we're all one people on this planet. Perhaps we're all one people in the cosmos. And that's what we're trying to say, is that we're really all one people in the entire universe. And that universal consciousness and universal understanding, to me, is the thing that will truly transform life on this planet and is the next big leap in human development.